My name is Dr. Barsoum with Breast for Life Thermal Imaging, where our goal is to help you keep your breast for life. One of the most common questions that we get from people is, what exactly is thermal imaging and how is it different from everything else? And I always like to use the following analogy to help people understand the difference between thermal imaging and the most common other tests that people know about for breast health, which is, of course, mammogram. So let's take a little adventure. Let's pretend you and I are in a hot air balloon. We're high up in the sky, and below us is a big storm. We see the clouds, the ground, the water. And in your hand, you've got a Polaroid camera. You're going to take a picture of that storm, and what are you going to see on that picture? The clouds, the ground, the water. And that's effectively what a mammogram tells us. It gives us a picture of the stuff that's there, the structure of things, looking for things that don't belong there and making sure the stuff that's there looks normal. Now, imagine we're in that same hot air balloon. Now we're looking down at that same storm, but instead of a Polaroid camera, this time we have an instrument in our hand to tell us exactly how fast the wind is going in the different parts of the storm, or how much rain is falling, or what the temperatures are in the different parts of the storm. So now this isn't so much structural information, not what does it look like, it's more functional information. Is telling us what the storm is actually doing. So the difference between function and structure is really what the differences are between these two tests. Now, for our purpose, why is structure and function so important? Well, it's pretty simple. In our bodies, the way that disease works is function always changes first, and then the structure changes. So for example, let's say you're 40 years old, you go in for your first mammogram. Let's say they find something that they're not sure exactly what it is, so they decide to do a biopsy. It's about the size of a pea or a pebble, so they stick a little needle in there, they take a sample out, look at it under a microscope, and decide that at that point it's cancerous. Well, that's a different conversation that person has to have at that point. But what we know is that that tumor did not pop up out of nowhere. It didn't happen overnight. We know it can take up to 10 years for a tumor or for the area for a tumor to grow to actually be primed enough and ready enough to support that disease process. And what's happening during those 4, 5, 6, 8, 9 years are functional changes. And when we talk about functional changes, we're talking primarily about inflammatory changes, blood flow, blood vessels, circulatory changes, and all of these changes usually bring with them additional heat. So we can use the thermal imaging to actually see the temperature patterns, the differences between left and right, and use that functional information to determine your real-time risk for developing future disease. It's the only test that looks at function. It's the only test that allows us to know what your risk is for developing future disease rather than waiting for a structural change to occur. And now you have to deal with a possible cancer diagnosis. And so when you go through a thermal imaging, you'll actually get a report that gives you a score, a risk score for both sides, one on the left, one on the right. And we use a scoring system of 1 to 5. 1 is the lowest risk, 5 is the highest. Everyone in the 1 to 2 range we always want to see. And we usually recommend a follow-up of about 1 year for the thermal imaging on that one. If you're a 3, that's considered medium risk. We recommend follow-up in 6 months. And if you're a 4 or 5, we do recommend a follow-up in 3 months just to make sure that things are not changing too rapidly. And if they are, you're alerted to it and you can take the necessary action. And really the good news about using thermal imaging is that it actually helps you know where you are functionally, because that's when you can actually change things, when you can actually improve your overall risk. Please remember that your breasts are not vital organs. They are truly the canaries in the coal mine. If they're showing signs of imbalance, signs of dysfunction, it lets us know that the systems underneath, your digestive system, your elimination system, hormonal system, immune system, there's dysfunction, there's congestion in those areas, and we're actually seeing that ripple up through the breast. We have an opportunity now, really for the first time, to change the paradigm of breast health and wellness from the current seek and destroy system that we have to a true preserve and protect system. So we do recommend that every woman over the age of 20 consider doing thermal imaging. It's 100% safe. It's 100% painless. There's no radiation, no x-rays. It's 100% private. If all the women of the world came together and tried to come up with a test for breast health, this is probably the closest to it. So I encourage you to check out our website, breastforlife.com. Think about doing it for yourself. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you so much.